It's just all about love and life and living in freedom. That's what it's all about for me now.
Welcome to the Rich Spinster podcast. This is Alexis. And listen, this is the first official full episode of the Rich Spinster podcast. And I want to let you guys know that this podcast almost did not happen. It almost did not happen. This is the podcast that almost wasn't. This podcast almost didn't happen because of the worst of computer problems. I won't even go into it other than to say I had the podcast recorded. I was fully prepared to upload it and schedule it to drop when my computer, which is only a couple of months old, my computer decided it was going to take a break from everything. It would not delete it. I could not drag. I could not use any of the programs. I was stuck. And I spent a good 15 hours trying to fix the computer problem, only for me to lose absolutely everything that I had recorded. But I really want to thank the good people at Apple because, listen, the geniuses at Apple, they honestly did everything that they could for me, even the remote geniuses. I was on the phone with someone from Apple who was helping me remotely at one time, and she was instructing me where to click. The woman could see my screen. She was pointing exactly where she needed me to click, but I couldn't do it. My perimenopausal mind was somewhere listening to Michael McDonald with a bourbon in my hand. I could not get it together. It was so bad that at one point she kept saying, "It's okay. It's okay." This is maybe after the fourth time that I clicked the wrong thing. And then finally, she felt so bad for me. She said, "You're okay." I responded with, "I am not okay. What about this situation makes you think that okay is my status at this time?" I mean, she was great. Shout out to the people at Apple who helped me through a tragedy, because it felt like a tragedy. But guess what? I'm here, damn it. So thank you to the people that helped me uninstall, reinstall, delete library, do everything that they could do so that there would be a Rich Spinster podcast today. Starting the Rich Spinster podcast has truly been a labor of love. Let me start off by saying Rich Spinster has nothing to do with being financially wealthy. The two roads that diverged in a yellow wood, for me, neither of those had a Bentley on it. But really, it has to do with all the invaluable things in life that go beyond money. And truly, spinsterhood has just given me the benefit of exploring and expanding in so many ways. And the name Rich Spinster actually came from a funny story. I was at a family gathering, and my uncle said, "How old are you now?" And at that time, I was 32. And he said, "Well, you're an old maid, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, I prefer spinster, Rich Spinster." So I am so excited about this podcast journey and walking this fine line of genius and insanity with you all. Thank you for coming along with me. Let me tell you, starting something new after the age of like 45 is incredibly brave or absolutely insane, because I don't know about other women in perimenopause, but what I can tell you is that I have the attention span of a fruit fly at this point in my life. If I am not 100% excited about something, you got 3 seconds before I have moved on to the next thing. I need life at this point to be a series of elevator pitches. Let's go. You want to tell me about your day? Let's go. You need to sell it. You need advice? You better package a problem in a way that's going to keep me engaged. Give me a brief summary with sound effects, or I am out. I have moved on. I have moved on to what I'm going to eat for lunch. That is not something I experienced before the age of 45, but here I am. Looking at the bright side of things is not my modus operandi, I can assure you, but the fact that I have a short attention span and perimenopausal brain fog, I consider to be a benefit since January 20th, a benefit since November 5th, to tell you the truth. I just need a little information to keep me informed about this fresh hell that we have chosen as a country for the second time. I don't need anything more than that at this point. Nothing, because kings, queens, and everybody in between, we have arrived at the find out part of the fuck around. It's almost as if there was a book put out about this called Project 2025 or something. That Project 2025 is going along the plan, ain't it? You know Project 2025, the Project 2025 that he said he didn't know anything about, although it has now become his entire presidential agenda. You know, the people who were responsible for Project 2025 have miraculously ended up in the administration. So now we're in a country where Christian fundamentalism is directing policy. It's all fun and games until it lands in your bedroom, front door, or construction site. It's all fun and games until it impacts your family or friends. It's all fun and games until your farm is impacted. I'm sorry, but the irony will never be lost on me that the people who claim to follow Jesus's example, Jesus, who was big time on love and compassion and doing for others, these people seem to be leaning into conspiracy, nationalism, and abject cruelty. Lest we forget, this is the lineage of the lynchings after church crowd. Speaking of the church crowd, shout out to Pope Leo. Shout out to the Blackish Pope. Listen, I loved seeing Pope Leo's crowd. It was like 30,000 people, they said, that were watching the stream, maybe more. I love that. And I love that his message, a part of his message, was encouraging young people to lean into service. Have you guys been following everything about Pope Leo? I haven't been following much, but I'm sure everybody has heard that the Pope Leo Blackish story. There's been all this genealogy tracing of Pope Leo, and I don't care about that. But what I do care about is his brother, not the one that lives in Illinois, but the one that lives in Florida, the MAGA brother. I want to know what his feelings are about all of this attention. His MAGA ass mind had to be blown. I actually loved Pope Leo's message, and I loved the timing of it, that it was happening during the time of the No Kings rallies. Let's talk about the No Kings rallies from last weekend. I have to talk about it. I have to, because it just reminded me of myself in the 90s. The No Kings rallies were fire. I saw all of you out there with your signs and with your shirts and your songs. I love a good protest. In the 90s, I used to protest everything. I lived in Florida at the time. I came of age in the 90s, so I really believed that my voice alone could help to change the world. So I was committed to my protest life. I would be on the streets of my small town in Florida. It would just be me protesting with usually 50 older white people who were usually from the Unitarian Universalist Church. Shout out to the Unitarians. They're such good people. I laugh at my black hippie self. Think an edgier version of Freddy from a Different World. I mean, I didn't hug trees or anything like that, but I thought about it. I saw the people out there who turned cardboard into masterpieces using acrylic paint, markers, glitter, and they were out there in the hot sun, okay, covered in sunscreen. I saw the white noses. I saw the white cheeks and arms, and then they hoped that they would just have a moment of glory when they could be sitting on the shoulders of a stranger holding that sign above their heads. And what was the message they had for the rest of the world? That message on that sign that took them exactly 3 hours to create? Fuck Trump. Yes. I loved it, people. I love the energy. I love the feeling of resistance. I also saw there were so many funny signs, though. And that's another thing that I really love about protests. There were so many just great signs. I saw this one sign and it had all of these little plastic balls glued to it, and it said free balls for members of Congress who've lost theirs. What? One that I really loved was a sign that said the only good ice is from Sonic. Listen, if you know, you know. Honorable mention, though, had to go out to this guy whose sign said Trump can only gargle D's nuts. I loved it. Oh, there was also a sign that really resonated with me, and that sign simply said, "Don't piss off old people." Listen, one of the only major symptom that I have of perimenopause is mood swings, is perimenopausal rage, and that "don't piss off old people" is real. I'm telling you, every day folks are taking a risk with me. They don't know how endangered they really are. Listen, when a woman is between the ages of 40 and 60, let me tell you that pissing her off is a threat to your health and your safety. You may as well be one of those people who are taking selfies at the edge of a canyon at the Grand Canyon. That's the risk that you're taking with women of a certain age. You could either end up with a great selfie that you can put on social media and get all the likes in the world, or there could be some sad singing and flower bringing due to your actions. Can you imagine if all women 40 to 60 didn't have an outlet at all for stress? What it would look like? There would be breaking news every day. Now we just have breaking news due to these unprecedented times that are actually precedented because we've seen this before. If this ain't history repeating itself, I don't even know what is. Though every day it seems the news tries to convince us that we didn't see this coming, that nobody saw this coming. What? We saw it coming. It happened before CNN. We saw it coming. It happened before NBC. I honestly believe that next time we have a national election, there should just be a sign that flashes red over the candidate that's a threat to democracy and just says, don't vote for this person. Threat to democracy. Actually, the sign should just flash threat to democracy, threat to democracy. Don't vote for this person because you need to give instructions. We can no longer rely on context clues and information for people to be able to deduce the best choice. We need to just tell them at this point. We can't even really depend on the news to give us facts anymore. We aren't just out here in this anxiety-ridden state because the news wants us to be. I believe all of this is sponsored by Xanax. When I came of age in the 90s, I didn't have all of this media news anxiety. You know why? Because in the 90s, we had Dan Rather. Dan Rather was simply a journalist. Dan Rather was on CBS Nightly News. And at 6:30, Dan Rather was sitting there behind the anchor desk. He had on a dark blue Brooks Brothers suit. Dan Rather had on a crisp white shirt and a striped tie. And Dan Rather sat there and he gave you the news. And at 6:59, Dan Rather said goodnight and he went home and minded his damn business. I love Dan Rather. I used to love Tom Brokaw too, but Tom Brokaw proved to be a little problematic. I do want to say that I love at least the news coverage from last weekend. I love seeing how the news was covering all of the people in the streets. And what I really loved is that little parade, that $45 million parade that was held. There are more people who tried to be in the audience of the fucking Family Feud. That $45 million parade was a flop. And that leads me to believe what I have always said is that the MAGA numbers are inflated. I don't believe that MAGA is as large as we think it is. Certainly there are Republican voters, but I think MAGA is kind of like Heaven's Gate. Remember the Heaven's Gate cult from the 90s? I think it was 1997. They were the UFO cult. That's MAGA. A cult is just a group of people who are blindly devoted to a leader. And they exclude all evidence and reason. So the military parade really was what I needed to be reminded that we outnumber them. And when I say we, I am not talking about any political party. I am talking about people of conscience. People of conscience, we outnumber them. And we need to act like it. Being nice as a progressive really hasn't gotten us anywhere. The only place progressives have gone has been to therapy after these elections. What I'm looking for is for elected officials to have the courage of the people of California. California has given us so much in the past 12 months, from Kendrick Lamar's best year ever to the resistance that was in the streets. I need the elected officials to have the courage of the people in the streets. Seeing that was beautiful to me. What were the people in California saying? They were saying, not today. Not today, ICE. You won't be coming up in our neighborhoods today, separating families, masked men taking people off the streets. Not here, not today. I am always seriously moved when people stand up for others, especially when they are not immediately directly impacted. So the people who were out there who weren't directly impacted, what they know is what we all should know, which is that our destinies are linked together. So shout out to those people who put their bodies on the line because they could have been home watching the news, shaking their heads and eating birria tacos. Have y'all had a birria taco? Let's talk about it. Listen, I first heard of birria tacos probably on social media a few years ago. And everybody made it seem so good, like it was the best thing going. So I had to give it a try. So I was traveling in Maryland, and I found the most authentic looking food truck that I could find. And I ordered the birria tacos. I took those birria tacos to my hotel room. I went out on the balcony, which overlooked the water, and I was prepared to fully have a moment with these tacos. Trash. They were terrible. And so I was kind of done with my pursuit of happiness when it came to these tacos until last month. So in May, my nephew, Trey, graduated from high school, and I traveled to Kentucky to attend his high school graduation. After graduation, I went back to my hotel room and I ordered from El Mariachi Mexican restaurant in Lexington, Kentucky. I took a chance and I ordered the birria tacos. And when those tacos arrived, they looked different. They smelled different. I took that taco and dipped it in that broth and sucked. And when I did, all I heard was praise God from whom all blessings flow. That is what I heard. I heard the voice of an angel. I understood what all the hype was about. The birria taco is the best thing going. Let me tell you, I was doing some late night big backing in Kentucky. Anyway, so my point is everybody could have been eating birria tacos. But instead, they had their bodies on the line. Shout out to all of you. I just want everybody who's out there who's listening to this or watching this on YouTube to make sure that you just take care of yourself in all the ways while we are at the same time resisting. I don't care if it's binge watching a series or if it's enjoying some birria tacos. You have to live, you have to love, you have to enjoy your life, and you have to do that every day. Listen to some 90s music, and I don't even mean on Apple. Like, pull out your CDs. Go ahead. Pull out that Michael Jackson. Pull out SWV TLC. Pull out Ace of Base, CNC Music Factory. Pull out all of that. Pull out that George Michael. By the way, when I was a child, I wanted to marry George Michael, Michael Jackson, Prince, Boy George, or Joe from The Facts of Life. Shout out to Nancy McKeon wherever you are. Life was also good in the 90s because Phil Collins was on the radio. You can't tell me that life didn't just feel better when Phil Collins was on the radio. It was another day in paradise. Listen, we had our share of bullshit in the 90s too, but we didn't have this. We didn't have this. Do whatever you have to do, but know that we're going to get through all of this and we're going to get through it together. Together is the word. We just have to lean into each other. As George Michael said, we have to have faith. So we are going to move on with faith, faith for the podcast, faith for technology, that it's going to continue to work for the podcast, and faith in each other. Because we all we got. Now, we may end up battle scarred and exhausted, but we're going to have a story to tell and bourbon in hand.